What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and this is one of the few times we've had to re-upload an episode with some tweaks because, yes, this is the Agelocer Moonphase review. I think most of you have probably watched that episode when we initially uploaded it, but the intro, when I was here talking at the desk, the settings were kind of off on the camera, and the color grading, the white balance, it just was a little bit off. Things were kind of oversaturated, and I ended up looking like I was part of the Blue Man group. So I wanted to kind of tweak that. Also, 2 clips were added like consecutively, so it was kind of a repeat, and then 1 clip wasn't added. So that was just a mistake in post-production. Guys, for those of you who follow us on our Saturday live streams here on the Time Teller channel, you'd know that thank you to my viewers and thank you to my channel members, I was able to get a new camera, new lenses, and a whole bunch of new equipment, and we're able to now shoot in 4K. But whenever we get some new equipment, you know, there's a little bit of a learning curve, and so yeah, the settings were off when I was initially using the camera. We're tweaking it. We want it to be perfect. We want it to look incredible for you guys. So just bear with us, and we are going to keep trying to make the best content possible. So without further ado, a second look at the Agelocer Moonphase. I believe they call it the astronomer. Let's take a look. It is 11:32 a.m. Let's get down to business. So we've taken apart that kind of large outer box, but this seems to be the main outer box, like what actually has most of the design going on. We can see Agelocer and then kind of, I guess, like a starry night sky, right? And then I assume that's going to be, yeah, a moon. Very cool, with like a handset on it. And then I think, wow, we got some wooden inner box here. Very, very cool. There seems to be more signage on this box. It seems a box within a box within a box. Here's Agelocer Original. We have an insignia. It says open that way. Original machine movement. Evo Kentico AG. Now, here's kind of my first complaint, right? If you want to be a luxury brand, right, a luxury watchmaker, you probably don't have to be doing the whole thing that you see with other entry-level watches where it has like a sticker on the crystal that says sapphire, and then like a thing here that says original machine movement. Like, you don't need that type of branding. It just kind of looks very entry-level. Now, I don't know if they're gonna have a sticker on the crystal that says sapphire, but all that kind of superfluous signage, I feel kind of takes away from the high-end luxury aesthetic. But that might just be me. Guys, sound off in the comment section. Got a booklet. Some nice heavy, kind of almost sparkly greenish blue cardstock. And then let's get this long box out of the wooden box. The box within a box within a box. Whole lot of boxes here, guys. For those of you who love when I talk about packaging, you guys are probably absolutely thrilled. So here it seems like some kind of leather, maybe pleather, I don't know. Long box. And this is what we want to see. All right, let's get up close. Okie dokie, so seems like we have probably, yep, a warranty card. You can check out the warranty number there. We have a microfiber, which is actually very important. I think every watch collector needs a microfiber square, especially if you enjoy, you know, videoing and photographing your watches. But here's the money maker, right? Here is the actual wristwatch, and we have a little bit of protective plastic there. We'll go ahead and remove that for you guys. Alright guys, so here in front of us is the Agelocer astronomer. This is known as the reference number 6406A1 Aventurine Full Moon Silver Automatic. This is a Kickstarter watch, guys. Full disclosure, the early bird price is $659 and the retail price is $899. The most interesting part about this watch, in my opinion, is actually not the really captivating dynamic dial and that enormous Moonphase complication. It's that little bit of writing on that wooden long box where we saw original machine movement, I think it said. This watch has a in-house automatic, and it's, again, fairly complicated. So this is the exclusive Agelocer mechanical movement self-winding 27 jewel. This is known as their Cal A4610, has a power reserve of 80 hours, and it's beating at a 28,800 BPH frequency. Alright guys, and when we flip the watch over, we can see this in-house movement through the display case back. Now, according to the spec sheet supplied to me, this movement is rhodium treated with haute horology finishing, whatever that means. They're trying to brag about this movement being nicely finished, and honestly, it kind of is. It's by far not the worst movement I've ever seen. There's some chamfering, polished edges, fine circular graining, and Côte de Genève. Gold lettering, blued screws, mirrored, and polished. Now, what's my opinion? Well, again, they did take the time to add some gold lettering with that insignia on the rotor. The screws do look nice. They don't look all mangled and butchered. It's minimal decoration. I'm not going to say it's the craziest movement I've ever seen, and it's by far not the ugliest. There's some movements out there with some of the entry-level watches, like, Star King, that they don't do anything. And we even have some watches that I've reviewed here that look absolutely mangled inside. So Agelocer did a good job with this movement, in my opinion. Okay guys, so after we took a look at that case back, I noticed that the watch was actually not beating. There was no power going to the watch because I guess we hadn't moved the box around enough. So I did actually already play with the crown a bit, and it does in fact hand wind. So if we flip the watch over, we can see the spring is moving, everything is grooving, and we are going to be hopefully able to tell some time with this watch. Now, one thing I was very interested in just a second ago when I was seeing if it did in fact hand wind was the crown setting, okay? Just the space, like just the width of a fingernail puts the crown into first position, and then you pull a little harder and you get into second position. But it's crazy. I've never actually encountered a watch like that. So just the tiny space of a fingernail, you pop that under the crown, and that's first position. And with this watch, because there's no date complication, first position would be the Moonphase complication, and then second position is obviously what you would use to set the time. No graininess or grittiness. Everything feels pretty good. The one thing I would say is that it is a quite tight squeeze. Like this crown stem is very tight. The tolerance is up against the case, which is not a bad thing. You'd want a tight crown stem. You wouldn't want a loosey-goosey one that would the crown would just pop open on you. So I'm not going to really complain about that. Just so you know, your watch isn't broken. It's just a very tight crown stem. So yeah, just the width of your fingernail starts actuating that Moonphase complication. Insane. Okay, so guys, let's take a look at the Moonphase complication itself, because when I first uploaded this episode, there was some heated battles in the comment section, some true contention. Is it a Moonphase complication? Is it not? Was I being too harsh? Was I being too easy? Here's the deal, okay? I stand by what I said in the initial review. I'm not comfortable saying it's not a Moonphase at all. It's just a terribly inaccurate one. I mean, this whole watch was designed to be the look of a luxury watch. It's an incredibly inaccurate Moonphase. And I think probably the easiest explanation is they most likely took the moon dial and they put it on a date complication. That's why it's moving in 31 increments. And special thanks to deployant.com for this bit of information. Again, I would not have known about that error without deployant.com. So I really do thank them. They edited their initial review on their website on April 22nd. And this is a quote from deployant.com that said, Ken of Agelocer replied that the Moonphase display is conceptual and makes one click every day for 31 days for one revolution. The display is only a very approximate show of which phase the moon is in, as it makes one cycle in 31 days instead of 27.322. This is a small but very significant error. All Moonphase displays have an inherent error, typically 1 day in 122 years, though the Stellar requires a correction of only 1 day every 2 million years, but 5 days a month is quite a lot more than typical. As such, we must state categorically that we need to disqualify the Agelocer as an orological Moonphase watch. So again, special thanks to deployant.com for that scoop. Now, what is my take? Well, I gotta kind of stick with what I said in the initial review, that I don't think I can say categorically this is not an orological Moonphase. It's just a Moonphase display based on a date complication, right? That's the easiest explanation. It's inaccurate. It's pretty to look at. I don't think you're buying this to study the tides or to study werewolf activity. It's just kind of something to look at, and I don't see why that's so difficult for people to understand. But the debate doesn't stop there, because everyone, myself included, loves to argue about the font, the signage, the logo on the dial. Now, this watch does not have any form of logo on the dial. It doesn't have the insignia on the dial. However, it does have this Agelocer name at the 12 o'clock index, or where the 12 o'clock would be. Now, I have a few complaints here, and it just might be my eyes. Again, comment. Let me know if I'm going crazy or if you see it too. But it looks kind of like Agelocer is closer to the 1 o'clock index than it is to the 11 o'clock index. It also kind of looks like the A is spaced a little bit further from the G than the G is to the E, and so on and so forth. That's obviously referred to as kerning. So the kerning does look a bit off with the A and the G. Another complaint, and this is absolutely subjective, is that I just don't like the name Agelocer. It's just difficult to say. Okay, I already get roasted enough for Agelocer, Vacheron, Constantin, Blancpain. What's another one? Formex. People were like, hey, do I need a prescription for this watch? Formex sounds like a medication. All that's very, very funny. Agelocer is just a difficult thing to say. I guess I'm just too much of an ignorant American. It's just so foreign to me that like my mouth, it's difficult to say that name. But yeah, I guess, that's just a very subjective gripe with this watch. But what do you guys think about this signage on the dial? And am I correct in saying the kerning is a tad bit off? All right, guys, so let's go ahead and inspect the case. We can see there is some dual finishing going on. So the bezel nicely mirrored and polished. The sides of the case, we do see some grainage, so this would be considered brushed. Have a little bit of lint here. The crown polished with that insignia, sides of the lug polished. Now the lugs aren't super duper wide set, but the overall case design language is of what we would consider kind of a modern luxury dress watch of today. Typically, they're kind of oversized. I'm a pretty good judge of like watch dimensions, and this doesn't seem gargantuan. It does seem a bit thick, honestly, but I don't think it's going to be super cumbersome because the lugs don't seem incredibly like wide set. Like I remember I reviewed that Era Tourbillon watch, and I could just see immediately that that was going to be a gargantuan, cumbersome watch, and I was right. Whereas this seems pretty reasonable. Again, you're going to get a very large dial. Like I can tell that we're seeing a whole lot here of the complication and of the handset and the indexes, but I don't think this is going to wear enormously. But we won't know until we measure it and put it on the wrist. So let's check it out. All right, guys, let's break out the digital calipers and measure the dang thing. So at the widest point, let me see, excluding the crown, of course, 40.2 millimeters. Not bad, not bad, within that 40 millimeter sweet spot, but the lug to lug is what's really important. 46.9 millimeter lug to lug, so still under 50 millimeters. 12.4 millimeters thick for a complicated automatic. That's not bad. I think that Dan Henry I just reviewed was thicker than this, if I'm not mistaken, and that was a Mecha Quartz. So yeah, not bad, Agelocer, as far as the measurements go. Let's go ahead and measure the lug width though. 19.9 millimeter lug width, so 20 millimeters. Here's why I wanted to go ahead and measure that lug width. It's because this strap feels like trash. Okay, there's like no bones about it. It's padded up until this point, and you can see it. So it feels really cardboardy and stiff, and then here it feels like thin, flimsy, and cheap. So it's like up here, it's like the factory Seiko Alpinist strap, and then at this point, it's like hollow and gross. So yeah, it has a deployant clasp, or deployant buckle, whatever you want to call it, but the strap is just disgusting. So my number one recommendation so far is that if you do get this watch, get some straps as well. All right, here it is, guys, the Agelocer Astronomer on my 7.5-inch wrist. It doesn't actually wear too cumbersome. It's not like crazy thick. It's not super duper big. Again, the lug to lug is under 50 millimeters and the case diameter is right around 40. So the dimensions really are not bad. The biggest issue that I take with this watch's wearability just comes from the strap. The strap is, as you can see, like flimsy where I don't want it to be, and thick also where I don't want it to be. So yes, it does come with that deployant buckle, but just get rid of it, okay? Live like a normal peasant like me and just wear a normal strap, because that's going to do this watch a much better service than this terrible factory strap. I hate it. Guys, here's another random thing that I'm noticing while it's on my wrist. I'm gonna put the watch up to the mic. The rotor is incredibly loud, okay? Like straight up, that's a loud rotor. Guys, here's one more thing I really don't like about this watch. This is just straight up more marketing. Moonphase, like you don't need to put that there. This, like we can see it has a Moonphase complication. But again, every company feels the need to have something written down there where it would normally say Swiss made. Don't buy into the hype. It's just you don't need that. So that's kind of superfluous and stupid in my opinion. It's kind of shallow, doesn't need to be there. I hate it. Now we can see here the handset does look pretty decent, fairly sharp. At the lower side of this minute hand though, we can see a few minute burrs. It's not super duper jagged, but it is catching the light a little bit. And again, this macro lens, it's gonna expose every imperfection. So yeah, I do see a little bit of jaggedness at the bottom edge of that minute hand. Overall, the indexes and the chapter ring, and again, this outer dial, the inner disc, all look very, very clean. Of course, it's going to be kind of difficult to differentiate between like sediment specks on the dial and the actual stars, but from what I can see here, everything actually looks very clean. Now, my editor Gato is going to have to help me out here circling it for you guys, but this watch did show up out of the package with kind of, a fairly large scuff here on the brushed finish. At least I'm happy it didn't make it to any of the polished edges, but again, I'm here just to review the watches that I have, so there is kind of a big mar there. But all in all, the watch is very clean and the finishing is pretty good. The dial though, that's where it's at. Look at that. If you want a watch that catches the light, this is pretty incredible. Now, speaking of light, there isn't any lume that I can see, so there's probably not going to be a lume test, unfortunately. But yeah, gosh, look at that. Talk about dynamic. All right, guys, so we spent an afternoon with this Agelocer astronomer, silver Moonphase, whatever the name was. It was a very long name, I remember. And what do I think? Well, again, even at the full retail price, this is coming in under $1,000. It is complicated with the Moonphase complication, and it's a beautiful representation of a Moonphase complication. There are some downsides, though. Again, there was not great finishing on the bottom edge of the minute hand. There was a scratch on the side of the case. It's not a very accurate Moonphase complication. The crown setting tolerance was a little bit funky. You got to get used to it because, again, you'll miss that first setting. And you're going to have to correct the Moonphase complications, I guess, you're going to have to correct the Moonphase complication, I guess, 5 times a month, according to Deployant.com. So, yeah, I mean, this is more for someone who wants to get the look and somewhat of the feel of a high luxury watch with this very beautiful complication. And again, the in-house movement, the movement itself was finished perfectly fine. I didn't see anything wrong with it. But it's also for someone who doesn't really care about the accuracy of the complication itself. Does that make sense? So you want the look, you want some nice finishing, you want it to seem luxurious, but the accuracy as far as the complication itself isn't that important to you. And that's perfectly fine. Again, let's face it, Moonphase complications, they're more for the look anyway, unless you're maybe a werewolf. And for those of you who argue, oh, well, Moonphase is actually really important if you work on the water and blah, blah, blah. Okay, how many people are wearing Moonphase complications in the water? Unless it's, a tide graph on a G-Shock, you're probably not really going to wear one of these dress watches on your fishing boat. I might be incorrect. Someone correct me in the comment section. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting dial layout. I think it looks beautiful. I think all discrepancies in the accuracy aside, it is an interesting amount of watch for the money. Again, sapphire crystal, 80-hour power reserve, in-house automatic movement, Moonphase complication that you're going to have to correct 5 times a month, according to that article, unless I was reading it wrong. And some pretty decent finishing. So, guys, what do you think? Again, commenting helps the algorithm out a bunch. It helps me out a lot here on YouTube. But I also want to learn from you guys. What do you think about this watch for, let's say, again, it was under $700 early bird and under $800 retail? Leave me the comment, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you there. I want to thank Agelocer for sending me this watch and sponsoring this episode. I want to thank my channel members for making it possible for me to film here and just have an editor, have this equipment, have this space to film. It's all because of you. I want to thank my viewers for hanging out with me every single episode. And yeah, guys, check out all the affiliate links in the description below. Check out my personal website, www.thetimetellershop.com. Join the channel membership. You get some extra content there, and you get access to that members-only Discord chat. I will see you on the next one. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.